Hey everyone, welcome back. Dave in History for the Ages here. As always, remember like, share, leave comments. If you want to check out some of the new merchandise I have below, that's a great way to support my channel. And those of you who watch enough of me know that, I mainly do history lectures, right? Cover Western Civ, history of the Middle East. I do, however, being a college professor for 29 years, have a few videos about what is going on in academia. And this might be one of the more important topics, which is how colleges, I think, have gone from education to indoctrination over especially the last 10 years, but even further back than that. And I'd love to hear in the comments, what do you think? Have you run into this? Am I over exaggerating what's going on? What have your experiences been on this? I'd definitely love to hear the comment section on this one. But it should be, education should be about teaching students not what to think, but how to think. And I know, before I go any further in this, there are a lot of amazing professors. I know a lot of them, of course, who do this really well. They put their own political beliefs on the side, and they're really teaching and then trying to get students to think critically, analyze, learn things in an objective manner. But if we're being honest, if you take academia as a whole, something is wrong. So, in the beginning, history of colleges, the early missions were about, I think, pursuing truth. Classical education, debate, learning that. You would learn grammar, you would learn rhetoric, you would learn logic, you'd learn history, of course, right? And you'd learn all this stuff in math, arithmetic, geometry, music. Greek and Latin were things that people taught a lot about, right? And it was all, the goal of it all was to kind of cultivate reason, eloquence, thinking critically, and of course, just being exposed to all the things of the past. That's kind of what, colleges were about, to learn from things that have happened before us. Then we start to see some changes. In the 19th and 20th century, there's what we call the German model, which introduced ideas that universities should do a bit more. They should research and discovery, and not just transmit the old knowledge. And that, I think, is great. I think it's wonderful that colleges do that, right? To kind of advance things. And then in the United States, we adopted that as well. You had, after World War II, the GI Bill, right? And the GI Bill opened higher education to millions of people. And again, all of this, I think, is pretty good. This is FDR, of course, signing the GI Bill there. And so all of this so far, I think, is still fine. So then the question is, where did things really begin to go off the rails? And this is the big change in the 1960s, where colleges then became kind of the centers of political activism. Of course, the Vietnam War was a big part of this. And then in more recent years, you see colleges' missions. The very mission of the colleges is to focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice programs. And they moved away more from teaching and into advocacy. Now, this is the problem. Even that by itself, you go, well, is that a problem? This is where it became a real problem, when the advocacy became narrowed to only one political persuasion, and it became very one-sided. And any sort of thought bubble, if it's on the far right or the far left, I don't think is healthy, right? And that's what begins to happen on many colleges, right? And this is some numbers, and I'm going to put my glasses on just so I can kind of read this a little better. I can't read without my glasses. But these are some data points that I wanted to share with you when you look at various research and you look at, upper colleges and who teaches on them, right? Identified as Democrats versus independents. This one from Harvard University, you could see 63% responded as liberal, 1% as very conservative. And so you see the ratios here as well in the Stanford study. And this is just, I didn't need any of these studies to tell me this, honestly, right? I kind of knew this, being a college history professor for 29 years now. Now, I will say this, I work at a community college. And one thing that I've noticed is community colleges they still have this issue, trust me, but there's definitely more variety of thought and diversity of thought on college campuses at community colleges than I would say the most elite Ivy League school. One of my other videos I had is about why there's so much anti-Semitism on colleges. And where have we seen the most amount of that? Columbia, UCLA, Harvard, all these quote unquote elite schools. And it is because those quote unquote elite schools have become the centers of this advocacy for one side of the political spectrum. And that's where the real problem lies. And it goes beyond just professors. Like I said, it is the very mission of colleges. When you look that colleges publicly support climate activism, racial justice, DACA, LBGT, and so forth, and there's no distinguishing between the public the public view of colleges and the political positions they take between the Democratic Party, that's a problem. It would be just a bigger problem if colleges advocated, let's just say, for the NRA and for pro-life groups, and that is what they only advocated for as well, and that's all they were. And then what are students getting? That's the problem. And I hope this is clear that, I want diversity of thought and ideas. That's the most important form of diversity that a student can receive, is that they go into a class and they get different viewpoints on things, not just one. Part of the problem is professional development. Even when you look at the professional development that takes place, it is again all geared in professionally developing professors to teach in this, ideas that go align with those missions. Now, why is it? Well, money, obviously, that's a big part of this. Money drives a lot of what's going on. And there's also another idea, I call it the poison of intersectionality, where these ideologies kind of merge together and you have to support one group because they're supporting you. And again, that I think is something that drains thought and free thinking as well. And that's a big part of colleges also. So I think that's where we've gone beyond. And I think there are people starting to realize that a little bit. And people are starting to say, wait, maybe we've gone too far with this, and we need to kind of move the pendulum back to the way it used to be. It is going to be challenging. One of the challenges is even hiring people today, because think about it. If hiring committees are composed of everybody who thinks the same, and you go in an interview and goes, I'm not crazy about DEI. I think DEI has a lot of problems, and maybe DEI needs to be approached in a slightly different way, or maybe completely different way as well. Or, I don't believe in equity. I believe in equality. Are you even going to get a job? And then that creates, again, that thought bubble as well. So I think that's one of the things that's really problematic in trying to solve this. And so I think we need to kind of reaffirm that classical idea of education that I started with, encourage a more diversity in points of views, right? Whatever it is. And I think that's something important. And I think also another thing, I have another video, is college even if is college for everyone. I tell my own students college is not for everyone. Look, my parents never went to college, right? And they made the American dream happen. I think there's a lot of great things you could do in vocational programs, right? Community college as well. And so I don't know if we've kind of crossed the Rubicon where there's no going back on this, and college has become so entrenched in their thought bubble that that's it, what it is, and this is what you have to know going in. And if you're going into college, you got to know this is what you're going to get. I hope not. I hope there's going to be kind of a kind of a recovery to all this, and people are going to go, wait a second, this is not what I want to see happening, especially in colleges that are funded by taxpayers. And so, these are some things to think about, because I do think there's a lot, again, good work that could be done in college. And obviously, I think the problem is much bigger in the humanities and social sciences than the chemistry and biology and all that. But even in those fields, again, when the college mission as a whole is pushing one political ideology, what are the students getting? And again, I want to be, again, clear on this. If they were pushing a political ideology on the other side all the time, I would be just as concerned about that. And so I have other videos, is college for everybody? Why is there anti-Semitism in college? How history itself is being erased in many colleges. That's actually a thing that's happening as well. And I'll leave some of them here you could watch, but I wanted you to really think about this issue. And again, drop your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you've experienced on college campuses. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching.